77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts, including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. The More Money Show with Steve Moore. Entertaining and informative on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. This is a show that we talk about money, we talk about politics, we talk about the economy. Thank you so much for our affiliates that keep growing every week because we have fun on the show. We actually make economics fun, which I don't think anybody else in the business, maybe other than Larry Kudlow, does that. So one of my longtime friends and a guy who I admire so much in terms of his political insights, and I know you do too because you see him all the time on Fox News, and he is just one of the most incisive guys about what is going on in Washington, what's going on in politics, is Joe Concha. And by the way, I did Joe's show last week. And so I said, only under the condition, Joe, that you would come on my show. So thanks so much for joining.
A live negotiation. I was cornered. What am I going to do? Say no in front of millions?
Yeah, right. I'm like Donald Trump. I'm a tough negotiator.
Well, this was an easy one
Joe,
to say yes to.
Thanks very much for joining. So I just wanted to add, first of all, I'm going to give my premise, and then I'd like your reaction. Okay. I think Trump is just pushing all the right buttons, and I'm not when he does something wrong, I'm willing to say, Mr. President, I don't agree with you on this or that. Sometimes he gets angry at me, but I have to say, this guy is on a super roll. I mean, he can do no wrong.
Well, you just look at the numbers, right, Steve? I mean, you look at border crossings are basically non-existent at this point.
Right.
What's amazing about that is it's not like they passed some legislation like we heard had to happen for that to happen. It just happened because of the president's rhetoric. And then they see things like alligator Alcatraz. If you're thinking about coming into this country, well, you may end up there. You may think twice about actually coming here. So Overall, you look at that number, you look at obviously inflation. Core inflation was 3.3% when Donald Trump took office. It's now down to 2.8%. Gas prices down. Consumer confidence way up. I could go on and on. Iran, nuclear facilities decimated. As far as to do no wrong, he's doing a lot of right. That's certainly for sure.
So you know Trump pretty well. I know Trump pretty well. The guy has a spine of steel. And, one of the things I admire about him is that he doesn't really care what people say about him. He's going to do what he thinks is right. And I've been waiting a long time for a president to do that.
Yeah. And the thing is, his first term, if you go back to 2017, the first year was a mess. And the reason why is because, Donald Trump's not from Washington, and he surrounded himself with people that may have been loyal to him during the campaign. Jeff Sessions comes to mind, right? And I could go down the line. Anthony Scaramucci was once the director of communications for the White House. Right. Kind of funny to talk about now, lasted about 5 hours. But still, the point is that he has people around him now that he could trust who are loyal, and therefore he can move forward with confidence without looking over his shoulder every leak that comes out about his administration. So you haven't seen the leaks coming this time around, and he's acting decisively and confidently, and that's why compared to Joe Biden, I mean, Donald Trump has already taken more questions and spoken to reporters longer than Biden did in the entire 4 years. And that's not an exaggeration.
That's amazing. What a statistic.
Yeah, because he's confident
he
in his
loves
argument.
It. He'll talk to the press all day, and it's amazing, too, because they're so abusive towards Trump, and yet he handles the press as well as anybody I've ever seen in that regard. The economy, you're right, Joe, is really looking up. I'm personally super bullish, especially after that tax cut passed. I wanted to ask you something about the politics of that, if I may. First of all, I've been in this business a long time. I came to Washington about almost 40 years ago, and Trump has this nasty habit of proving me wrong. And so I was telling people for months, there is no way that they're going to get this tax bill done by July 4th. And he did it.
And I was in the same boat as you. And it wasn't because I didn't have confidence in Trump's ability. It was more Mike Johnson and John Thune had zero margin to work with. I mean, in Johnson's case, you have that perpetual no vote, Thomas Massey, who loves voting with the squad a lot and loves to fundraise off of it and talks about, acting on principle when he offers no solutions and alternatives in between. He tried to actually have Johnson ousted. The fact that Johnson could get that through the House with basically a 1-vote margin, and then John Thune with a 3-vote margin, and all the different factions that wanted all those different things, you had to compromise, and that's why no one loves the bill 100% completely. But with the numbers that they had, if you wanted the cuts that Elon Musk wants, for example, right, on spending, you lose moderate Republicans. You do that, the bill doesn't pass. The bill doesn't pass, taxes go way up, and spending stays where it is, which is massive. So that's the win there. Now you get the discretionary bills pass as far as cutting, and then Musk maybe won't be as loud as he has been to this point.
Well put. By the way, I'm talking to Joe Concha. You know him from Fox News. He also, by the way, when is your show on WABC, Joe? Is it Sundays?
It is Sundays at 11 a.m. It's the Judge Jeanine Tunnel for Towers Foundation show. And, it's funny because, Jeanine was hired, obviously, by the president to be DA of Washington. So that makes me the only person left at Fox that hasn't been hired by Trump.
Well,
so
you do a great
me
job
on the air. So he's like, all right, Concha makes some sense. He criticizes me once in a while, but when I talk to him, he's like, you used to be very good, now you're great. I'm like, okay, I graduated from a B to a A. Thank you, Mr. President. So
practice makes perfect, as they say. And so now let's talk, if I may ask you, about the Democrats. When I first came to Washington, Joe, and this is a heartbreaking story, actually. I mean, when I came to Washington, I dealt with Democrats all the time. I've dealt with Dick Gephardt and Bill Bradley and Sam Nunn and, sometimes even Ted Kennedy on issues and things like that. Bill Clinton was a moderate Democrat president and did some good things for our country. We had a balanced budget under Bill Clinton. What happened to those people, Joe? How did the far left take over the Democratic Party in such a subversive way?
I have a theory on this, Steve. I think it's social media. I look at the rise of the left, the far left, and the rise of X, social media, TikTok videos, that sort of thing, because they could communicate and do all, do the snark like AOC does. I don't know what Eric Swalwell does as a congressman, but he's on there all day. You think there's a 2-drink minimum because he's just trying to make a joke. Right? It's insane. So I think that's what's helping to dictate the Democratic Party. Look at Jasmine Crockett, for example, right? This is a person who says insane things like...
Now, who are you talking about?
Jasmine Crockett of Texas, Democratic Congresswoman.
Okay.
Yeah, she's nuts. All right. She's on MSNBC and CNN a lot. That's probably why, the name isn't familiar to you, because those networks have more employees and viewers.
I don't watch too much of that.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But the point is that she said, for instance, that Trump's 2 assassins were actually Trump supporters. You're like, no, that's not wrong. That's not right. She called Governor Abbott of Texas Governor Hot Wheels because he's in a wheelchair because, he's paralyzed.
Really
outrageous. And now she is the leading candidate for the Democratic nomination to run against either Ken Paxton or John Cornyn for the Senate in Texas, because she's loud, she's provocative, and that's what gets rewarded by the Democratic Party. If you're a moderate and you're like a John Fetterman who makes sense about a lot of things, you don't get the attention that they do. So I think it's social media driven, to be honest with you.
So I'm listening to, these people that are, it's obviously very early, but already many people are looking towards 2028, and Donald Trump cannot run again, I don't think. So it's so interesting to me, Joe, that 2 of the front runners are the people that are being talked a lot about are Gavin Newsom, the governor of California, and the governor of the state that I am from, which is Illinois. I'm a Chicago boy, J.B. Pritzker. And these 2 have been total disasters for their state. I mean, they have nothing to brag about. So what is J.B. Pritzker going to say? I'm going to make America look like Illinois? Or is Newsom going to say, I'm going to make America look like California? I mean, that's a joke.
Well, I think in Pritzker's case, he'll just say yabba dabba do, because the resemblance to Fred Flintstone is overwhelming. So maybe he rides that home. No, you're right. Illinois is an absolute mess, and I'm a big fan of Chicago. I'm not from there, but I'm a Cubs guy, Bulls guy when Michael Jordan was there, and the Bears, obviously. Yeah, I know it's weird. I'm from New Jersey, but those are my teams. But anyway, the point is that if you just look at their records, like in Gavin Newsom's case, highest homeless rate in the country, highest income tax rate in the country. You have a state that has a budget deficit like we've never seen before. He doesn't know how to handle wildfires in terms of having water in simple places. But he's running on hair gel, and he's running on white teeth. and forget the fact that he was eating at the French Laundry during COVID when he shut everything down. I think, again, it's performance art. And if you could be the best performance artist, that's what gets you the nomination, not common sense things like Bill Clinton did with a balanced budget amendment and the era of big government is over and welfare reform.
So I know you just got a minute or two left because I know you've got to run off and do a TV interview because you're always on TV.
So it's a radio one, so I could go a little longer with it. That's fine.
on the way out. So when you look at, is there room for a moderate Democrat? You know, one of the guys who I actually went to high school with, believe it or not, is the he was. I'm having a senior moment here. You know, he was the Rahm Emanuel. Rahm Emanuel.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've been following this, but Rahm has been saying some pretty interesting things about his party. He's saying, "Hey, we're way out of touch with middle class America," and I applaud him for saying that. I know that on social media they're beating him up, but can someone? I don't know if you've been following Rahm Emanuel and some of the things he's been saying, but they make a lot of sense to me. Can someone like that emerge?
No, and I say that definitively because I was old enough to remember 2020. And Michael Bloomberg, who I thought was a very good mayor of New York, I lived there at the time, and he just extended Giuliani's policies right as far as crime, and then obviously ran it like a business. And he had 3 terms, so he had to be successful. And when he ran for the Democratic nomination in 2020, they ate him alive. He could a moderate will not survive the nomination process. You would have to go to the left during that and then come back to the center during the general. And I don't think a moderate will survive. And Rahm Emanuel is just too vanilla and makes too much sense.
Yeah. So you know what my theory is, and we'll kind of end with this, just your quick response to this, that, I lived through the Reagan years. And so Republicans Reagan won 2 landslide elections, as you may recall. And then George H.W. Bush won an election. So Republicans won 3 straight presidential elections, and the Democrats were out in the wilderness. And out comes, a moderate Democrat in Bill Clinton, who sort of saved the Democratic Party. You don't think that can happen? In other words, did they have to lose again before they learn their lesson?
I guess so. Yeah, I think I just don't see how a moderate gets through the noise that, let's say, AOC runs. She'll get all the media attention. No one's going to really look at her record, right? And somebody like Rahm Emanuel, I guess maybe. Clinton also benefited from the fact that Ross Perot was in that race and a recession was happening. So Clinton won with 43% of the vote. So, if you have a fractured electorate and a moderate somehow could get through, I think that person has a chance. But if the Trump economy is taking off the way we think it will and it's already doing great, like we talked about, and foreign policy, we have peace and prosperity. J.D. Vance is very well lined up as the Republican nominee. That's for sure.
Well, Joe Concha, thanks so much for joining. Love the work that you do on TV and radio. Folks, this is The More Money Show, and we will be right back.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network. 77 WABC invites you to a family fun day and softball showdown on July 20th with net proceeds benefiting Shriners Children's. John Sterling will call the game as the FDNY takes on the NYPD with special guests Dwight Gooden, Art Shamsky, 77 WABC hosts including Sid Rosenberg, Anthony Cumia, Lionel, Dominic Carter, and many more. For more info and to buy tickets, go to ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org. That's ShrinersChildren'sChampions.org.